Hello students, today we are going to cover an important chapter of class 6 science, which is materials around us. Now before starting the chapter, let me introduce myself a little bit. So I am Raghav Daksh, currently pursuing history honors from University of Delhi, College of Vocational Studies. Now let's start our chapter with some key concepts and definitions that are going to come in this chapter. The first one is classification. Now classification basically means grouping objects or materials based on shared properties, which means putting together the similar type of materials or objects. For example, there are 10 objects, let's say, and 3 of them are solid in nature, 2 of them are transparent in nature, and the rest are opaque. So they share similar characteristics, a few like 3 of them and then 2 of them and then 5 of them. So we are putting and we are creating a separation and we are characterizing them, okay, and then creating a classification of these objects, which means we are separating them from each other. So that is known as classification. Now the second one is lustrous. Lustrous basically means shiny surface. It often seen in metals like iron, gold, etc. Now the third one is hard and soft. It describes how easily a material can be scratched or compressed. So we can easily compress and scratch the softer one, and the harder one will be much hard to compress. Now, the next one is transparent, translucent, and opaque. Now, it describes how well we can see through a material. We'll discuss it later. But for example, if there is a transparent sheet, that means we can see it clearly, which means we can see through it clearly, basically. Now, the next one is soluble and insoluble. So, it says whether a material dissolves in water or not. Now the next one is mass. Mass basically means how much matter is present, which means how much material is there. So everything is made up of matter, made up of particles, smaller particles. So how much particle it holds basically. So mass tells us how heavy something is. Now the next one is volume. Now volume is the space occupied by the matter. That means, for example, if I put something in a bowl, that means the particular thing is taking up the space of that bowl. So a bowl has a volume of its own. So volume tells us how much space something takes up. Now next one is matter. So anything that has mass and volume is known as matter. Now let's see materials and objects. So objects around us like notebooks, pens, tables or chairs are made from different materials such as paper, wood, cloth, glass, metal, plastic and clay. A material is any substance used to make an object. For example, a notebook is made up of paper and a pen is made up of plastic and metal. So a material is basically, or we can say raw material. Basically, it is the initial raw materials which are required to create a finalized product, such as notebook and pen. And the raw materials would be like for notebook it'll be paper, and for pen it'll be plastic and metal. Now, objects can be made using one material or a combination of several materials. For example, to make a pen, we are going to need plastic as well as metal. But to make a notebook, we are going to need paper or different type of materials like a thread or glue, etc. Now, early techniques and pottery. Ancient pottery found in India dates back 7,000 to 8,000 years and was made using clay, later developed into wheel turned pottery with color coatings and paintings during the Harappan civilization. So, in the earlier times, like 7 to 8,000 years back, the clay was used to make a pottery, okay, which later developed into wheel turned pottery, okay, which means a clay was used to create a wheel, and they also decorated it with color coatings and paintings during the Harappan civilization. Now, clay for pots was carefully selected, cleaned, and baked to make terracotta items, which were used for cooking and storage. So, they were used for cooking and storage. These ancient pottery items can still be seen in museums today. Grouping and classification. Now, objects can be grouped based on their properties such as shape, color, hardness, softness, shine, or the material they are made of. So, they can be classified into, or they can be grouped into the shapes, color, hardness, softness, shine, or the materials they are made of. The method of arranging objects into groups is called classification. So the method by which we group different things or objects or we arrange them is known as classification. Now materials can also be classified by their properties, and the same material can be used for different objects, and the objects of the same kind may be made from different materials. So materials can be classified by their properties, which, for example, if the materials are soft or the materials are shiny, so we can classify them by their characteristics. Okay, and the same material can be used for different objects, and objects of the same kind may be made from different materials. Okay, now, properties used for classification: appearance and luster. Some materials have a shiny surface called lustrous. These are usually metals like iron, copper, and gold. Not all shiny materials are metals. Sometimes a surface can be made shiny by polishing or coating it. So, not all shiny materials are like metals like iron, copper, or gold. Some can be made, shiny by polishing or coating it. Now, hardness and softness. Hard materials are difficult to scratch or compress. Example, iron, brick, or stone. You cannot, compress it easily, or you cannot scratch it easily. But the soft materials are easy to compress or scratch. Example, eraser and sweater. Now, these properties are relative. For example, rubber is harder than sponge, but softer than iron. So everything has its own level of hardness or softness. So we can compare it with different objects. Now, transparency. Transparent materials like glass and water allow us to see through them clearly. So any object through which we can see clearly is a transparent object. Translucent materials like frosted glass or butter paper let light through but not a clear image. So we cannot see through it clearly through a translucent material, but a light can pass through it. Now the third one is opaque. Now opaque materials like wood or metal do not let any light pass through, so we cannot see through them. We cannot see through them, and we cannot pass any light through them. So it is opaque. Now, solubility. Some substances like salt and sugar disappear when mixed in water. They dissolve basically, making them soluble. So any substance that can dissolve into the liquid is a soluble substance. Other substances like sand or chalk powder do not dissolve in water and are called insoluble. Some liquids like oil form a separate layer when poured into water, while others like vinegar mix completely with it. So there are some liquids like oil which does not dissolve with water, which cannot be dissolved basically. So oil form a separate layer when poured into the water, while others like vinegar mix completely with it. So oil is also a kind of like insoluble substance. Now, mass and volume. Mass means how much matter an object contains, measured in grams or kilograms. So, mass basically means how much matter or how much heavy it is. So, how much matter, how much particles it contains. It is measured in grams or kilograms. Now, volume tells us how much space an object occupies, measured in liters and milliliters or cubic meters. So, volume tells us how much space an object occupies or it contains. So, it is measured in liters and milliliters or cubic meters. When objects feel heavy or light, it is because of their mass. The water level in a bottle or tumbler shows its volume, the amount of space it occupies. So a water level in a bottle or a tumbler or a cup basically tells you that how much volume it has, how much amount of water it can hold. And when objects feel heavy or light, it is because of their mass. Now, what is matter? Anything that has both mass and volume is called matter. Basically, heaviness and the capacity to hold anything. Basically, both of them it is called matter. So all materials are forms of matter, and properties like mass and volume help us measure and describe them. Example of matter are water, sand, pebbles, and air. And water is a liquid form, sand is a solid form, and pebbles are also solid form, but air is a gas form. So it is a gas form of matter. Now, classification in Ayurveda. Ancient Indian texts like Ayurveda describes 20 properties of all matters, grouped in 10 pairs. Example, heavy, light, solid, liquid, smooth, rough. So in Ayurveda, which is an Indian text, contains it describes basically the 20 properties of all matter. For example, heavy, light, solid, liquid, smooth, rough, etc. These properties apply to all things, living and non living, and are used for classification even today. Yeah, so this was all about this chapter. I hope you liked it. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. You can comment down your doubts below and subscribe to the channel for more such videos. We'll meet in the next video soon. Till then, take care. Bye bye.